We are gathered here together to talk about drama, toxic relationships, and just mess. Just a messy, messy plot. Hello, hi. My name is Rachel, and welcome back. Today what we are doing is probably the longest video of my life. I did not realize when I started to do this how intensive this was actually going to be. I don't think I've spent more time on a video than this one. Today I am going to be explaining in detail the entire plot of the first book, Daisy Haites by Daisy Haites. I personally didn't really want to read Daisy Haites or Magnolia Parks. I still don't have a desire to read Magnolia Parks. I'm hoping that someone else will make a video like this about Magnolia Parks. But Daisy Haites I was kind of interested in. I just wanted to know the plot of it. I didn't know anything about it. And so I looked for a video like this and I could not find one. So I apologize if there is one out there. Please tell me about it and I'll link it below because it's probably going to be better than mine. I decided I would bite the bullet and I would read it. And I didn't just read it, I read the second book too. So more than likely I will be making one of these for the second book as well. I only gave them 3 stars. They're so messy. If I read them, maybe there's other girlies out there who are like me who would want something like this. So I asked on my Instagram and I got enough responses saying that they would watch this because they don't actually want to read it that I was like, okay, I'll do it. So this is what I have done. I made notes on my computer, so I will be reading those notes the entire time. I will be discussing in detail the plot. I will even be reading quotes from the book because really, I don't feel like you get the full experience unless you also get a taste of Jessa's writing, because her writing really is, I would say, fairly unique for the kind of book it is. I wouldn't even call this book a romance. It is just toxic, rich kids falling in love with the same person. And also them just hurting each other like constantly. It's so much drama. So much drama. It's like reality TV. I will say, it was entertaining enough to like hold on to me, but I got so frustrated with these characters, let me tell you. This will serve as a great recap for those who enjoy the books and they want to read the next one but just don't remember everything, and it's also good for those who don't want to read it and they just want to know what it's about, because yeah, I get it, it's an uber popular series and I was like, I just want to know what it's about. So strap in. I will do my absolute best to keep it very linear. I'm going to go from chapter to chapter, and as I go through the chapters, as we meet people, is when I will introduce them. So we're gonna do it. It's gonna be a lot. So again, strap in as we discuss Daisy Haites and the entire plot. I read it, so you didn't have to. That's what this is. Let's get into it. Let's start off. So we are in London, present day London, and we enter into this place called the Compound, and that is where Daisy Haites lives. Daisy Haites, she is a 20-year-old second-year med student. She's super smart. She doesn't seem to really like anyone. She has a pretty hard exterior. She isn't friends with girls, and that is because of mommy issues. Talk about that more later. And she just kind of wants to be normal. She is at the compound with her older brother, Julian. Julian is 29. He is a gang lord of London. People call him the most dangerous man in London all throughout the book. He is an art thief and an arms dealer. So that's why they live on a compound. Daisy's life is consistently in danger all the time. And there they live with a lot of Julian's associates. So it's kind of like a gang mafia thing. And their names are, we've got Koa, who is Julian's best friend. We've got TK. We've got Declan, who is Julian's right-hand man. We've got Miguel, who is Daisy's bodyguard. He is always with her. And we've got Booker. And it's good to note at this point that basically all of these men are like 30 and under, and they all have kind of a crush on Daisy. Most of them have hooked up with her at one point, so that's just the name of the game in this series. Everyone likes one person, and in this one, it's Daisy. So anyways, we enter in to the compound. Daisy and Julian and the rest of the boys, they call themselves the Lost Boys, are all having dinner. She's studying, and they break out into a fight. The boys do, because one of the boys makes fun of Declan for being in love with Daisy, because he is. And so Declan shoots that one. Immediately we go into Daisy doing triage surgery on one of the boys. And we get the idea that this is something that happens a lot. She is constantly pulling bullets out of people and sewing them up and doing different things for them. So 20-year-old surgeon, you've got to be smart to do that. As she's doing that, our main man, Christian, walks in. Christian Haites, he's a 23-year-old. He is also a part of a gang family. However, they own different venues, some of them above ground, some of them below ground. And honestly, we don't really hear all that much about it, but he's super handsome, you know, super rich. All of the people in this book is super rich. And also, you should know, he gets around. Him, Julian, really all the guys, they all get around. They're all super charming. Julian is one of those like charming, cool, funny people, but also uber dangerous. Christian is more of like your white knight, but also bad. Anyways, he comes in to the compound, and that is when you're first introduced to the fact that Daisy and him are friends with benefits. They have been for a while. Comes over, they have sex, and Daisy sees that his phone is still going off with a whole bunch of girls messaging him, and it makes her feel a certain way. And that's when we find out that Daisy has more than just friendly feelings towards Christian, but she knows that he doesn't feel the same way and feels sad about it. And that's where we start. That's where we begin. Lots of already just insanity and a little bit of toxicity. So let's keep going. Then we go on to chapter 2, and it's from Julian's point of view. He shares his feelings about Christian and Daisy's situation. He's not a huge fan of it, but he can't really do anything about it. I mean, him and the Haites are like good old family friends. He's at brunch with the boys, and there we meet Jonah, who is Christian's older brother and Julian's oldest friend. We meet BJ, who is just a rich kid who is the main character, the main man character in Magnolia Parks. We meet Henry, who is BJ's younger brother, and we talk about Magnolia Parks. Magnolia Parks, she is the it girl of London. Every guy is in love with her, and every girl wants to be her. Apparently, like, no one cannot fall in love with her, and she uses that to her advantage. She's like nice, but also she knows how to work the system. Yeah, her and BJ are the one who have this on-again, off-again relationship. So anyways, they're at brunch, they're talking crime, they're talking potential theft, yada, 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 and yeah, we're meeting all these people. Then we go on chapter 3. Daisy talks about how her parents died. She loves to cook, she loves to do laundry, she loves to just do normal things, and that is because her life is consistently in danger because of what Julian does, and she doesn't really want to be a part of the life, but Julian is the only person in her life. We go into chapter 4, and it's from Christian's perspective, and this is where we learn that Christian is in love with Magnolia Parks. He's been in love with Magnolia Parks for 3 years. We find out that him and Magnolia and Henry and Magnolia's best friend, Paisley or something like that, that they have been friends since they were babies. And she loved Christian first, but then the same time that he fell in love with Magnolia is the same summer that she then fell in love with BJ, and now, you know, that's just the way it is. Of course it is. Of course it is. Toxic. So they're all hanging out together. Christian, the boys, Henry's there, Jonah's there, Magnolia's there. BJ shows up. He's with another girl. That makes Magnolia feel a certain way, so she starts cuddling up to Christian. Christian eats it up, even though he knows that she is just using him to try and get BJ's attention. He tries to make her jealous by texting Daisy, and that's when Magnolia finds out that him and Daisy are a thing. Turns out she doesn't feel jealous. But while Christian is texting Daisy, he finds out that she's been hanging out with the Lost Boys that night, and that is the first little bit we get an inkling that maybe he could be a little bit jealous, because he wonders if Daisy has ever been with any of the Lost Boys. So, people falling in love with people and people feeling jealous. That is the name of the game of this book. Then we go to chapter 5, and Julian... It's from Julian's perspective, and he's talking about Daisy's pull on people and how everyone is just kind of in love with her. Not to the magnitude that everyone is in love with Magnolia, but Daisy is just another one of those girls. Jessa Hastings loves to write those types of characters. So they're at the compound, they're hanging out, he's talking about this, and then Detective Tiller shows up. Detective Tiller, he is a hot detective. He's probably around the same age as Julian. He has been investigating Julian for forever, trying to nail him to the wall, if you will. And how he does that is by talking to Daisy and trying to get information out of Daisy. I don't know why he would continually approach. He started approaching her when she was 16, and now she's 20, and yet still can't. So you'll find Tiller shows up a lot. Daisy has always had a little bit of a crush on him. So whenever he shows up, she flirts with him, and he never flirts back, but there's a little bit of tension between them. But yeah, he asks about Julian. She pretends like she doesn't know, flirts with him, he leaves. He will become important, so that's why I'm bringing him up. And we go into chapter 6, and Christian takes Daisy out for her birthday, and he teaches her how to drive. She's always wanted to learn how to drive. That's just another normal thing that she's never learned how to do. And so she sits in his lap while he's controlling the pedals. There's lots of sexual tension. Of course, they shag in the car. Here's one. It's again from her perspective, and he's teaching her how to drive and, telling her the instructions. She says, I roll my eyes, trying not to smile too much, trying not to mount him on the spot, trying not to melt into loving him accidentally. And then, after they've had sex, she says, hey, I pursed my lips together. Thank you for this. He gave me a half smile, then slipped his hand behind my head, which I remember thinking at the time, hey, you don't normally do that. His eyes flickered from my eyes to my mouth, unable to decide where to land. Eyes, eventually. I said I would. Already, we're getting a little bit more tension between them. Next chapter, we've got Julian is hanging out with a friend at the compound, and he needs stitches. Daisy comes in to do that, and that's when Romeo shows up. Romeo is another person who works for Julian. His family and the Haites family are family friends, and Romeo is also Daisy's childhood lover / ex. They broke up about 2 years ago, and that is because she found Romeo in her bed with another woman. Her name's Tabby. I bring that up because she'll come back in later. Again, toxic. So Daisy has mixed feelings about him being back. We go into the next chapter, and it's just a continuation of their discussion. Romeo's back, and he's laying it on thick. He wants Daisy back. He is flirting like crazy. He says that he missed her, but that also he has a crazy ex back in New York, and he needed to get away from her. So, charming, right? He flirts with her, wants to take her to lunch. She apprehensively accepts. He talks a little bit about her and Christian, and already we get some jealousy. Just a quick little quote, just kind of describing their relationship. The long version is, he is my family. I grew up with him. I fell in love with him when I was, all of 8 years old. He's my oldest friend. He's my best friend. We've been through more shit than I wish we had.
but I don't want to talk about it. We ended properly probably 3 years ago, but define properly. There's too much water under the bridge for properly. There is no properly. He and I will only break up properly when one of us is dead. No one likes it when I say that, though, least of all him. So much drama. That's like the most dramatic thing ever. It won't be done until we're dead. That's crazy. We move into chapter 9, and it is boys' night, whatever that means, at a venue that Christian owns. Christian decides to invite Daisy to it, and Henry is there, and he starts to question a little bit. He's like, hey, you've never invited a girl to these things, and you're inviting Daisy? Do you have feelings? And Christian denies, even though he knows. So Daisy shows up, and Christian feels uncomfortable because he knows that he has mounting feelings. And so to get away from that, he decides to approach a group of models and hang out with them. And he sees that it hurts Daisy's feelings. So then Daisy goes and she talks to the hot bartender. He gets jealous. And this is what he says. I'm already on my feet before he finishes the sentence. Don't like it, not at all. And I'm not jealous, but it's just fucking inappropriate. Everyone knows me and Daisy are together. Well, not together, but you know, whatever. We're, you know, and he works for me. It's fucking disrespectful. Drama. So they go home together, basically is how that ends. Chapter 10, and it is a little while later. Daisy, after dinner, goes over to Christian's house and she helps him change a light bulb, and there's lots of sexual tension again. They have sex and they watch X-Files after, and here's a quote. It's really just about them deepening in their feelings for each other without actually saying anything. And while they're watching, Christian, too, is obsessed with X-Files, but he's not watching it. He's watching me, staring, just looking at my face, inspecting it, almost like he's seeing it for the first time. What? I ask, self-conscious. He shrugs. You have nice eyes. They're brown. He gets a little closer, shakes his head, bit of gold in there. He squints at me. You have a freckle on the corner of your lip, he tells me. Go to chapter 11, and Julian is doing business with a bad guy. His name is Ezra Brown. Ezra Brown wants him to steal some artwork for him for a mistress. Julian decides he doesn't know if he wants to do it just because this guy, he doesn't know if he can pay up. That's really the end of that. That'll be important more later, so just kind of remember Ezra Brown and that whole situation. We go to chapter 12, and Christian and Daisy go out to breakfast, and while they're at breakfast, again, Detective Tiller shows up, and he questions Daisy about Julian, but of course it always just evolves into flirting between them, and Christian gets jealous, and he shows it. And Daisy is like, oh, what's going on here? It just devolves into a convo about how Christian sleeps with a lot of people, and he's mad about that conversation because he doesn't want to talk to her necessarily about that. Another quote, again, it's from Christian's perspective. It feels like we're fighting, she tells me. I shake my head, disinterested. We aren't. A silence hovers between us. We have silences a lot. I like them usually. Usually with her, being quiet feels like I'm alone, and I never feel like I'm alone when I'm with someone. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but really this is just adding more angst to their relationship. Again, just jealousy. Then we go to chapter 13, and Romeo shows up at Daisy's school to take her to lunch. They go to lunch. There's lots of flirting. And Daisy, you know, she's saying like, we'll never work. We can't get back together. This isn't going to happen. Romeo keeps on trying to push it and being like, we'll never be over. And asks about her ending it with Christian. And again, I'll read another quote. Why would it stop now that you're back? He takes more of my fries and grins at me. Because I'm back. We just clarified that we don't work. Rome swipes his hands through the air. Different. Different how? Because it's different. We can't date, but... He pulls back, giving me a look. Did you really just think I took sex off the table for us? Yes. Well, I mean, I took it off. He gives me a look like I'm an idiot. You'd never take it off. Again, toxic. This is when we find out the extent of why they broke up, and I'm going to describe it to you because I think you need to know it, because you need to know these characters a bit more and just their motivations for things. So Daisy and Romeo go to a party together. This is 2 years ago, and this girl gets some glitter in her eye. So Romeo helps her get glitter out of her eye, and he's like touching her face. Daisy sees this, gets really pissed, goes and sits on Booker's lap, drinks, gets drunk, kisses him. Romeo sees that, thinks that they're hooking up, not just kissing, and that's when he takes Tabby to her bed and sleeps with her. And that's when Daisy sees that happening. So, toxic. And you'll find that that's kind of what this is. People who love each other just hurting each other to try and like get them to admit their feelings. And that obviously doesn't work. We get to chapter 14. Really, this is just from Julian's perspective. Daisy and Julian go to dinner with Romeo's family, and really they just comment how Daisy and Romeo are always going to be together. That's just the way it is. They've always been together. So they are trying to come off as like faded, but I mean, we know that that's not the case. They're trying to be slick, but they ain't. We go into chapter 15, and Daisy and Christian again are having breakfast together. They go out, and while they're out, Daisy sees Magnolia, and that's where she clues in that Christian did this on purpose, and he is trying to make Magnolia jealous, and of course that frustrates her and makes her upset. Her and Magnolia then have a very tense conversation, and Magnolia doesn't know what to do with it, which makes Christian laugh. Daisy leaves. This is another quote, again from Daisy's perspective. Christian jogs after me a second later, grabs me by the wrist. I like the feeling of him running after me. It tricks me into feeling like we're a couple and we've been having a bit of a tiff, and now I'm stroppy, so he's come to chase after me. I'll have to make him work hard for a minute, but not too long, because I'm constantly fighting the compulsion to run my hands through his hair. Or at least that's how I think it might feel, if I didn't know all that's just a trick of my mind and that none of that is real. Christian ends up kissing Daisy in front of Magnolia. Again, she's feeling like he's trying to make her jealous. That's when she talks about how she found out, as soon as she started to have feelings for Christian, she found out about Christian's feelings for Magnolia, her take on it. And so here's the fucked up thing. Seeing him love her made me like him more than I liked him before. Not because I'm a masochist, but because my friend with benefit became a human with heart. I could see through his heart, and I knew that loving his best friend's girlfriend would kill him. I could see it in the way he watched them. This fresh pain all over him trying his best to hide it. The angst. And she says, if I had the foresight, I would have known it would kill me. But with or without foresight, I would let him again and again, like use her. Toxic. Then we go to chapter 16. Christian is at a party with BJ and Parks, and he thinks about a few memories. The first one of his sister. His sister, Rem, died about 15 years ago, and that is what caused his parents to no longer be together. He also thinks about another time a few years ago when him and Parks kissed, and it was a very hot and heated kiss. They almost had sex but didn't. And then the last memory that he's thinking about is when he saw Daisy smile, and it was before they ever hooked up, and it's just one that lives rent-free in his brain, and he just thinks about it every once in a while. Feelings, but he, again, doesn't realize it. And at one point, Parks and Christian share a secret smile. BJ gets pissed and asks what it's about. That's when Magnolia tells BJ that they kissed. She's laughing about it, thinking it's no big deal, but also knowing that it's going to hurt BJ. Of course, BJ is hurt. BJ leaves. Parks, of course, follows him, and Christian is feeling sad about it. So he texts Daisy, again, to kind of use Daisy. And Daisy says that she's with a friend, and that makes Christian even more sad and even more jealous. Chapter 17, in Julian is out and Tiller runs into him, Detective Tiller, and again is asking him about his criminal stuff, but then they also make fun of him because of his crush on Daisy. So again, I mean, just everyone in love with everyone. And we go to chapter 18, and it's from Christian's perspective, and he is missing Daisy. They haven't chatted for a few days, so he's at a club, and he sees Roman there, and him and Roman are kind of friends. And basically he asks him, "Oh, who are you here with?" And Roman, he gestures to someone behind him, and then her head pops around his shoulder. "Daisy," I blink. "Hey," she smiles brightly. "Whoa, fuck. Why fuck? Shit. I take that back. No, fuck." "Hey." I give her a smile, but it feels forced. I glance from Daisy to Romeo, and my brow goes lower than it should. Oh, jealousy, jealousy. And Daisy, while they're chatting, she gets mad at Christian because she hears that he fired the bartender that she had been flirting with, and she wants to know why. And she basically forces him into voicing his feelings. Again, I'll do another quote. "So, we're sleeping together," she interrupts. "A month ago, you fired that Belgian man who tried to make me pay for drinks." I give her a look because it's not the same thing. "Yeah, but that's because you're my..." I stop short. Fuck. Her eyebrows shoot up, instantly drunk with power. "I'm your what?" I shift on my feet, folding my arms over my chest. I think I feel my face falter. She's my what? I don't know. I don't know what the fuck is going on with me. Feelings. That's what's going on. More tension. They end up talking a little bit about Romeo being back, Christian, being jealous and saying things, and Daisy saying, "Well, Romeo's always going to be in my life. He's my best friend. We were together for forever. He's saved her life multiple times." And Christian makes a snide remark about that. And of course, then Daisy gets really pissed about that. And boom, now they're fighting. Now they're mad. Now they leave angry. Just no one can do anything right. We go to chapter 19, and Daisy and Christian don't see each other for weeks, don't talk, nothing. Romeo starts coming over more, and Daisy starts to fall into old habits with him, saying, "I don't know whether we work now, if we can, whether we should even try, but I do know that there are few safer feelings in existence than his head on top of mine. He's the sexiest security blanket alive, to me at least." Romeo stays for the day. So more things are happening, but also she has feelings for Christian. Also in this chapter, Tiller drops by again and they flirt a little bit, and Romeo, of course, is jealous about that. Then we go to chapter 20, and Christian is missing Daisy. He says, "She hasn't called me, she hasn't asked to come over, and I don't usually care, but I'm pretty in my head about it. It's almost like I miss her, but I couldn't. Why would I? I think it's because we're friends. Weird friends. I'll give you that, but friends, still. She's the person I tell all my shit to, you know?" Oh my gosh. Christian is missing Daisy, and he is hanging out with the boys, and Julian is there. So of course he asks Julian how Daisy's doing, and that's when Christian finds out more about all the things that Daisy has gone through and all the times that Romeo has literally saved her life, where she is almost getting killed or kidnapped by people who are trying to get to Julian. Of course, that makes then Christian feel guilty, and then he also gets in his head about the fact that Romeo is hanging out with Daisy more and more, and so he feels like he's just screwed up. Julian is also seeing through it and being like, "Yeah, so you and my sister." And Christian, of course, denies and is being like, "Yeah, I'm just using her for sex." And Julian's like, "Yeah, sure you are." So we go to chapter 21. It's again another Julian chapter, and he recounts how his parents were murdered in front of them. They were shot on a beach. Julian was only 18 and Daisy was only 9, and how he started taking care of her from then on. And so he feels like Daisy is almost his kid, but also his best friend, also his sister, and that he's always going to take care of her. Then we go to chapter 22. And Christian goes on a vacation with the boys to Amsterdam, kisses a couple of girls, tries to hook up with some girls, doesn't feel a certain kind of way, but when he gets back, he's really eager to see Daisy because he wants to be around Daisy. Then don't go and kiss other girls. What are you doing? But he's trying to act really casual about it, and he says the dumbest thing. He says to her, I kissed the hottest girl in Prague while I was there. And of course, then Daisy is like, why would you tell me that? And he's like, why wouldn't I? Even though I know the answer. We're friends. She rolls her eyes. Yeah, sure, but... And I don't do jealous, I remind her. Are you jealous? Do you want me to be? She asks, her hands on her hips. No, I lie, but yes. Shit, why do I want her to be jealous? Okay, then why are you telling me? Because we're friends. Okay, friend. And I just, again, why don't you just say, like, he knows that that's going to hurt her, and so he, like, says it because he's, I don't know. And so then, of course, she wants to get back at him, and so she says in the same conversation, well, maybe I'm just going to go to Italy with the boys and go hard in the town. Okay, Clark. And he's like, but which boys? And of course she gets, she's like, oh my gosh, get out. I purse my lips and look at her for a second. Which boys? She looks at me like I'm stupid and points to the door. Get the fuck out of my room. Guys. More dumb stuff. We get to chapter 23, and it is from Daisy's perspective, and Daisy goes to Italy with the boys, with Julian, the Lost Boys, and Romeo, of course, is there. Romeo and Daisy flirt like crazy. Romeo is landed on thick again. Daisy still thinks about Christian, but she definitely likes feeling wanted by Romeo. They don't have enough rooms for everyone, so of course, Daisy and Romeo decide that they're going to share a room. Well, more Romeo decides it, but Daisy lets it happen. He's, there to just be with random guys, and Romeo says, no, or she says, no one kisses me when you're around. I pout. Just like God intended, he beams. Rome, I'll kiss you, he tells me cheerily. You will do no such thing, I growl. Okay, he says with air quotes. And there is an ease between us that there isn't with anyone else, not even with Christian, with whom I so badly want there to be an ease. I'm dying for there to be an ease, but there's not. It's just a slog, and me alone in it while he's off having sex with the hottest girl in Prague. Then we go to chapter 24, and it's Julian's perspective, and he's talking about how he's a player and how he's the one that really broke up Daisy and Romeo, but that it's kind of a moot point. And this is another quote from him. It's a moot point now, I know, and he loves her. He died for her. He died for her, which I care about. That counts for something. But so would Christian, I reckon, though I don't think Christian knows that yet. Then again, neither does my sister. People. And when I tell you, this is what it is just the whole time. Then we go to chapter 25 from Christian's perspective. And Christian's hanging out with all of his friends. He's hanging out with Henry, Jonah, and Tora comes in. Really, she's not uber important in this book, but I have a feeling that she's going to become important in the universe. And this is when you get the first feeling that Henry, Tora, and Jonah kind of have a love triangle going on, and she really just ends up dating both of them at the same time, and it causes so much tension. Like, it, of course it would, because they don't want to be in a throuple. They just want to be monogamous with her, but she just can't decide. It's a mess. The boys are making fun of him because they're like, yeah, you have feelings for Daisy, and he's deny. So they dare him to kiss Tora, and he can't do it, and that's when he finally realizes, oh shit, I like Daisy, and he says it out loud. So, like, we're finally getting to a point where it's like, no duh, dude. And that's when he finds out that Daisy is in Italy with Romeo. And of course, that makes him so sad, so devastated. But then we get to chapter 26. Daisy and Romeo are out on the town with the boys in Italy, and they go to a club, and that's where they run into Tavi, who Romeo slept with. And that's when Daisy finds out that Romeo and Tavi, they hooked up just a few weeks before he came back from New York. So like they've hooked up recently. She gets pissed. She goes and sits on Booker's lap again. Then she goes and flirts with a guy at the bar. The guy at the bar slips something into her drink. She clocks it. She immediately gets into a fight with that guy. She knows how to fight, so like she can take a man down. She does that. The boys join in, take care of him. I mean, I don't know if they murder him or what happens, but he gets beat up. She goes back to their room, to Romeo and her's room, and Romeo comes in and they fight. Then they kiss. And of course, that's when they hook up. One of the quotes from it is, "He has wandering hands and I have very low willpower when it comes to turning him down, especially because the God to honest truth is that I don't want to. I never want to say no. Romeo Brimbilla's hands on my body feel to me like a warm towel coming straight out of the dryer after a hot shower on a cold day. It's not necessary. I can survive without it, but it is one of the nicest things." And then she also says, "There's something about kissing Romeo that doesn't happen with anyone else. And though I'm not Alice and I've not fallen through that looking glass, I am falling, and it is through something like time and space. He has hands that feel like an infinity, and the way he presses his body into mine feels the same as it has since we first started doing this back when we were young. We were too young to be doing this." Beautiful type of writing, very unique, and so like it's very, you get a little bit confused because you're like, wow, like this is very deep feelings for someone that I don't think she's going to end up with. And really all of this just kind of goes more into chapter 7. They just keep hooking up and they talk about how they're bad at just being friends. Now we get to chapter 28. And Julian is having issues with the client, Ezra Brown. He just doesn't think that he can pay it. Then we get to chapter 29, and Daisy lets us know that Romeo and her had kept hooking up the whole weekend. He's that guy that when things get hard, it's easy for her to fall back into it. She says, "And there's this thing about Romeo that makes him a bit like quicksand for me. Easy to fall into, hard to get out of." Christian comes to visit her and things are awkward. He asks about her trip. She tells him about the guy who tried to roofie her. He asks if she hooked up with anyone. She is like, "Why do you want to know?" He straight up asks if she hooked up with Romeo, and she feels weird and guilty about it and says yes. He then tries to act like it's no big deal, but she presses, asking why he would even want to know, and they end up getting into a weird like slut-shaming face-off, and she asks him to leave. She like thinks about why she chooses Romeo over Christian sometimes, and this is what she says about her feelings about Christian at this point. "I don't like feeling like this about someone, this unbridled, free-falling, slippery, fragile thing that it is to love him, because he, Christian, who is standing right in front of me, is never going to want me how I want him, even if sometimes it feels like he might for a second. It's just a trick. It's the Oxycontin talking. And nothing I think I see on his face is real, because I'm looking at him through the eyes of someone who loves him, and those eyes can't be trusted, and neither can he." Y'all, so much drama. Then we get to chapter 30, and Christian is feeling bad about the end of that conversation. He chats with his friends and Parks about it. Parks makes a remark about how Romeo is hot, which then makes Christian uber mad because she's like, "What the fuck, Parks?" He gets mad at her, which then makes Henry mad at him because he's mad at Magnolia. Like, make it make sense. People are always on Magnolia's side, and honestly, I feel bad for Christian. Magnolia ain't that great. Then we get to chapter 31, and Daisy is in Paris with Romeo and Julian for an art opening, and she is missing Christian. She's thinking about Christian the whole time. She notices on Instagram that Christian is on a vacation in Greece, that Magnolia is also on, which is making her feel a certain type of way. Thinks about Christian even when she's with Romeo, like kissing and like being with him, which again, toxic. Goes to the art opening, and of course Tiller shows up again. They flirt again. Then we get to chapter 32, And Christian is just pissed in this chapter. He's still in Greece with his friends. He is missing Daisy, and he is just hating watching Magnolia with BJ because her boyfriend is with them named Tom, and Magnolia is playing both of them like a fiddle, and he sees it. He's disgusted by it, and he's starting to kind of like hate her. And people are noticing, and they're like getting mad at him for that because they're like, you know how this goes. She's in love with BJ. She's not in love with you. And they're trying to figure it out. And I'm just like, guys, he's trying to like call her out and you all aren't letting him. And so him and BJ at one point have it out, and BJ just tells him like anything she had with you ever was because of me and because she's trying to run away from her feelings for me, and she's feeling sad about me, and it has nothing to do with you, and she'll never like you like that. Destroys Christian because he knows that to be true, but also like, talk about cruel. Again, drama. Also, while he's missing Daisy in that chapter, one of his quotes is, "So Daisy's just what I think about now. That's who I've become. I just think about Daisy Haites all the time, and I'm angry about it all the time." Because he doesn't want to like Daisy. And so I'm just like, this is dumb. We go to chapter 33. They are still in Paris. Daisy and Romeo and Julian are still in Paris. They go back to their place. They have a fight about how she was flirting with Tiller. He says something extremely rude along the lines of, we don't talk anymore and you're not as good in bed anymore. Like that's what's... And so like she gets pissed obviously about that. And he's like, no, that's not what I mean. It just, I want us to be how we used to be, and I want you to want me like how you used to. Now she is not. She's more in love with Christian, and Romeo doesn't like that. And he says, he's a phase, Days. I shake my head at him. He is. You and me, we're it, you know? We're always going to be it. We'll always come back to each other. And also he says, so yeah, I might fuck around with other girls. And yeah, I slept with Tabby in New York. And you know, I'll probably do it again when you do something shitty. But it's you and me, Days. No one has what we have. No one's been through what we've been through. So go. Fuck about with the Hems boy, but I know what we are. Guys, isn't it? So it's just this. Always. Constantly. So you see where my frustration comes in, right? Right. Then we go to chapter 34, and it's just more of Christian being angry, still being on vacation in Greece. He keeps going back and forth about feeling like he's in love with Parks, and so that feeling that he has while being in love with Magnolia isn't how he feels when he's with Daisy. So he thinks he's not in love with Daisy because Daisy makes him happy. Make it make sense, right? But then he also goes into thinking that maybe he is over Parks, especially when she's with BJ. It just feels like their chapter can never be, and so like the chapter is closed. But when they have a falling out, which they do on that trip, then it just feels like it reopens again. It's a shit show. This is what he says about his feelings about Daisy in that chapter is, Daisy's that feeling you get when you're floating on your back in a pool and there's so much fucking noise around you until you put your ears under and it all goes quiet. That's how she feels to me. So like obviously like she brings him peace. Now we get into chapter 35, and Daisy and Julian and Romeo are on their flight home, and Julian finally gives his blessing to Daisy for her and Romeo to date. But that's exactly when Daisy admits to her brother that she is actually in love with Christian, and Julian's like, oh shoot. This is what she asks. Do you think he's a phase? She tilts her head. She looks sad. Could be, I shrug as I toss my arm around her. Or he could be the love of your life. So that's not very helpful. So basically she decides that she's not going to sleep with Romeo for a while because she doesn't know what to do with these feelings for Christian. Go to chapter 36, and Christian is at brunch again with the boys, and they're back from Greece. They're talking about Daisy for a little bit, and BJ tells him that he should just tell Daisy how she feels, which is rich coming from him because he doesn't tell Parks anything about his feelings. So it's like, okay. We get to chapter 37. Daisy decides to go out to a club that she knows Christian is going to be at, and she is looking hot. Christian spots her, of course, as soon as she comes in. They don't chat. She actually chats with BJ for a little bit, who tries to convince her that Christian actually likes her more than he's letting on. And the way he does that is by saying, I mean, look at me and Parks. I sleep with every girl who isn't Parks. And that means something. And it means that I actually love her. Guys, what? That doesn't make any sense. That's his way of trying to convince her. And like, it convinces her kind of. Someone ends up calling Jack, her best friend, who is gay, the F word, and Daisy straight up fights him. Christian breaks it up and yells at Daisy because he's like, what the heck are you doing? Daisy yells at him for being all over girls. He kisses this girl right in front of her, and it's just like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, no, you should come to me. And she was like, why? Because you're kissing other girls. Why would I ever come to you? And so, of course, they leave each other then mad. Christian takes the girl that he kissed home, not with him, but just home. She invites him up. He says no. He goes straight over to Daisy's right after because he's feeling dumb and guilty. They fight again, but this time it's about Romeo. And finally, Christian admits that he likes her. And this is how he does it. So this is all from Christian's perspective. While they're having this fight, Daisy stares over at me defensively. What's it got to do with you anyway? What's that now? I blink a few times and take a few steps towards her. What does you sleeping with someone else have to do with me? Yeah, she shrugs. Because we're not together. Well, we fucking are now, yeah? I yell loudly, and her head pulls back a little. So you stop fucking around with him. What? She blinks, but her cheeks are pink. I'm done. I give her a look. I'm done with other girls, okay? I just want to be with you. So, like, it's supposed to be sweet, and, like, sure, it's breaking up the tension, but, like, toxic. They end up together. She's excited and happy about it. And we are finally halfway through the book. Chapter 39 happens, nothing important. We go to chapter 30, and Christian plans a date for Daisy, and he's so excited about it. They've been together for a week now, and he's been with her every single day, but he leaves the night before the date and is like, it'll just be more fun. What they do is basically they just do normal things throughout the day because, again, he knows that Daisy wants to be normal. And so they go to the supermarket together. They fill up his gas tank together. They go to IKEA, which is very sweet. You know, she loves it. They pick out, you know, what their perfect kitchen would be. Then he lastly takes her to a laundromat that he like has rented out because he knows that she loves laundry. She's got like a thing about laundry, which of course like just makes her feel some type of way. And they have sex in the laundromat. That's their date. It's really cute, honestly, because she loves it so much. But also it's kind of funny. Like it's very rich people, you know? Also, at the very end of the date, you know, her wanting to be normal, he says, there's a fatal flaw to your normal plan, you know? He tells me. I turn to face him, lift my brows, but make sure he doesn't let me go. And what's that? He locks the door behind me. You have that face and that brain, and you'll never be normal. Shakes his head. You couldn't be if you tried. I sigh after these quotes every single time, and I'm gonna keep sighing after them. Chapter 41, Daisy and Christian are happy together. They chat about people they have killed, like it's no big deal. Julian then comes in, because like they're at the compound together. Julian comes in, he's battered, so Daisy fixes him. Declan stares at Daisy a little bit too long, which makes Christian pissed. They go to her room where they chat about the lost boys that she slept with, and Christian ends up giving her a heart necklace that he has never taken off. And it's one that Magnolia gave him. She gave one to all the boys of the box set, and he ends up giving it to Daisy. And Daisy knows it's from Magnolia, and you know, he's just doing it. And I mean, it's supposed to be a big moment of, you know, showing that even if he doesn't know it, he obviously has more feelings towards Daisy than Magnolia at this point, but he just hasn't clued into that. We get to chapter 42. Julian is chatting about a job with Romeo and Romeo's brother. When Christian and Daisy walk in, they're very obviously together. Romeo feels some kind of way about it, and he ends up telling them that he thinks that they'll only last for a month, which of course then makes Daisy and Christian feel some type of way, because classic, no one ever can just be. And like, they make it official in front of everyone too. Christian and Daisy being like, yeah, we're officially together. And she's like super excited about it. And of course that just crushes Romeo. To chapter 43, and Christian is out to dinner with all of his friends. And that's when Magnolia realizes that he doesn't have the necklace anymore. And he tells her that he gave it away to Daisy. And that makes Magnolia mad and sad, because she was like, but I got it for you. And he's like, yeah, but Daisy liked it and I wanted to give it to her. And this is kind of when we get clued in that he kind of likes seeing Magnolia sad. And so again, just toxic feelings, because obviously like he's still feels a certain type of way towards her, but just doesn't know exactly what. And Magnolia, again, like she doesn't need to be doing that, being all like, but I gave it to you and all of this. And then of course all of his friends get mad at him for making Magnolia mad, and it's just round and round and round. And like, this is what he says about being in love with Magnolia. It's kind of embarrassing that I love her, but I still do. That pulls a fucking number on me too, actually. I love Parks. I have for too long now. Don't really like her anymore though. And Daisy is all I think about. She's the one who I want to touch and spend all my time with. So it's kind of like, dude, obviously you don't love her. 44, Julian asks Daisy to come on a job with him. Christian says that he'll go as well. So they go to the job. This is chapter 45. They go on the job. It's at a charity gala. And while they're there, Tiller shows up, and their plan is for Daisy and Christian to pretend like they're there to buy an art piece for Julian's birthday. She doesn't know that Julian's there, and Julian is there also trying to pick out an art piece for Daisy to buy. And a group of people in baklavas come in and, you know, start pointing guns at people, and they end up pointing a gun at Tiller, and they say they're going to shoot him, which then Daisy takes Tiller's gun and shoots the guy, saving Tiller's life. And that's when she realizes that actually this was again part of the plan that Julian didn't tell her about, and so she just shot an ally. She just shot the brother of another gang. So that's an issue. But Tiller is now like super into her because she saved his life. So, of course. Then we get to 46, and they are back on the plane, and Daisy is yelling at Julian for not telling her about these things, and Julian, of course, is yelling at her. Christian is saying that he'll promise to fix it. From Julian's perspective, he's watching them together, and this is what he sees. He kisses the back of her head mindlessly, and it's all a fucking mess. I can see it unraveling now. Rome still loves her. Christian's falling in love with her. Don't even get me fucking started on Tiller. Girls, you want to make sure someone falls for you hard and fast? Pull out a Gen 4 G19 and save his fucking life. You'll never be rid of him. Drama! Chapter 47, and Daisy is now on super high alert. She's under lockdown until further notice. Christian is hovering. He's with her all the time. He leaves one night for a quick work thing, and Tiller shows up to basically thank her. More tension with Tiller. 48, and Daisy finally meets Christian's family, which is basically his mom and his older brother Jonah. Mom is super nice, super great. They learn more about their messed up pasts together. How Daisy's mom only wanted a boy, and so Daisy's mom would treat her horribly. And then Christian talked about how his dad left right after his younger sister died. Then we get to chapter 49, and Christian talks more about his family, how his mom inherited the crime syndicate from her own father, and that his dad was so in love with her that he married her anyways, that they were super in love until his sister died, which his sister drowned in a pool when she was really young while no one was looking. Oh, and the same thing, Daisy and Christian go to this like mafia thing with the rest of the Lost Boys. It's like just a gathering. Place gets shot up, and Daisy turns to Romeo, and like Romeo and her just kind of go into like survival mode of like how they always do when something like this happens. And so they're like clinging to each other, and of course that makes Christian feel a certain type of way, and he ends up walking away. Miguel tells him that it's a reflex, and he's just like, right, and nods, a reflex. So he's, again, feeling a certain type of way about it. Push and pull, man. Then we get to chapter 50, and it turns out that someone had actually tried to kill Daisy, but Daisy really wants to find Christian. Like, her and Romeo kind of snap out of it, and that's when she realizes what she was doing with Romeo, and Romeo realizes what he was doing with her. Christian luckily then shows up. He asks her what happened and if she wants to even be with him or not, being like, are you just biding your time to be with Romeo? And she's like, no, that's not it. And so that's when she tells him about all of the different times that she has almost died. And there was one time that a guy was like trying to kill her, and Romeo was with her. And, it ends up being something where she actually kind of saves herself. She ends up being the one to like kill all the guys who were trying to kill her and Romeo. Romeo was just kind of there. I mean, he helped, but he was just kind of there. And so it's more just trauma bonding and all that. Christian, of course, understands that and hugs her, and they make up, and he just wants to take care of her. But trying to deal with the fact that she just always turns to Romeo is still hard for him. Then we get to chapter 51. Christian is hanging out with the boys again, sees BJ and Parks, and how she's basically dating both BJ and her current boyfriend Tom, and he really just thinks she's the worst. We get to chapter 52, and Julian finds out that Ezra Brown did not pay the full amount that he was supposed to pay, and of course that pisses Julian off. And so now he's gonna start trying to figure out a way to get that money. Chapter 53, it's Julian's birthday, and Daisy makes him his favorite food. It's just really sweet. And then we get to chapter 54. And tensions are really building between Romeo and Christian, and it's kind of reached its climax at this point. Julian's birthday dinner, and it's stressing Daisy out. They go to Julian's party, and Magnolia is there, and that makes Christian tense up, and Daisy notices that, and just from that she just realizes that Christian is never going to be over Magnolia, and that pisses her off. So this is basically her cutting her losses. Goes over to Romeo and asks him to take her away. Christian is confused, gets super sad, super mad, and is like, what are you doing? And this is what she says: I don't know whether we're friends. I don't know what me and Rome are, but one thing I know for certain is that when I take him home tonight, he sure as fuck won't be thinking about Magnolia damn Parks. And so she leaves with Romeo and is like, we're done. And then right after she leaves is when Christian realizes that he's in love with Daisy. Like, this is when he just has this epiphany, of course. BJ is also mad at Christian because he's like, dude, you're in love with her. And it's like, BJ, this isn't about you. Why are you trying to make this about you? Like, Christian is dealing with a lot of stuff. Let's not make it about you. It's bad. Okay. Then we get to chapter 55. And this is really where things just kind of start to pick up pretty quick. So obviously her and Christian done. Daisy takes Romeo home, and they proceed to have sex for like 2 weeks straight. This is Daisy's way of coping with not being with Christian. Like, she is full on using Romeo, using sex with Romeo to get over Christian. And she is yet still thinking about Christian as she's being with Romeo. And it's for 2 weeks straight. Romeo, though, is thinking that this is them getting back together. So, soul crushing, right? Messy. This is what she says about Christian. I loved him so much, so quickly, too soon, and now it's done, and I'm collapsing under the weight of it all. I'm imploding. She says, is my heart breaking? Is my heart breaking, or is it on fire? Definitely on fire. But is it the good kind or the bad kind? I can't tell. It just needs to be put out, and I can't think of anything else for that whole minute, that whole perfect minute where the world rushes and shakes and I don't think about how I'm fucked up, crazy in love with a man who doesn't give a shit about me. Messy. To chapter 56, and it's Julian again, and he's obviously concerned about Daisy, but he still needs to figure out things with Ezra Brown. And so this is when they kind of decide that they're going to do something drastic about it, something that he's never done before, and something that is against Daisy's rules. They don't mess with kids, but they're now along the lines of thinking maybe they will kidnap Ezra Brown's kids for ransom to get the rest of the money, which again is they shouldn't do, because of course Daisy's going to find out and get super pissed about it. I should say it's Declan's idea, and Julian is hesitant at first but then decides to go along with it. Christian's point of view, and he spends all this time trying to figure out his feelings, that he loves Daisy but also needs to figure out his feelings for Magnolia, and he wants to get past her, so he goes to see her. They have a very real conversation about how she's kind of been using him and his feelings, and that needs to stop, and he wants to be over her. And he says, from now on, I look for her eyes. If you wouldn't ask Jonah to do it, don't ask me. She shakes her head. I think at herself. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me. I press my tongue into my top lip. I let you. I shrug weakly. We could have had this conversation 3 years ago, but we didn't, because I didn't want to. I flash her a half smile. Loving you was a good reason not to love anyone else. So now they're like friends again. He no longer wants to make her feel bad, but he also no longer loves her in that way. And so we finally have that closure that we've needed. Chapter 62, Christian goes on another vacation with the boys, and that's when he hears that Daisy and Romeo have just been having sex nonstop. And of course that crushes him, and he's in denial about it at first, and he was like, no, they're not together. They're not together. Like, I love her. She loves me. But no. Then chapter 63, Romeo and Daisy and Julian go out to dinner, and Christian is there, and he approaches wanting to talk to her, and she's like, no, I don't want to talk to you. She absolutely refuses. And so then Romeo and Christian get into a fight, and like they're fighting, and Christian is like a really good fighter. Like, everyone knows that. And so he's like beating the crap out of Romeo. Julie ends up breaking it up, but from Daisy's point of view, after the fight, Christian gives me a long look, his chest heaving, fist bloody, so is his nose. He stares at me like I've wronged him, like it was me who tricked him into loving me, like it was me who threw his heart under a bus. But we both know the truth. He presses his tongue into his bottom lip, wipes the blood away, and I stare at him a second longer than I really should. Before over to Rome, checking out his face. And like, she holds Rome's face specifically to like hurt Christian, because she just wants to keep hurting Christian because she feels hurt. Toxic. Always. Get to chapter 64. And Julian has a come to Jesus moment with Daisy, because Daisy and Romeo are still just having sex nonstop, and that she's not doing anything that she enjoys anymore. She's not cooking, she's not doing laundry, she's not going to classes, and she's still just like, whatever, I don't care. And so she's still obviously very, very depressed. Julian's Julian, while he's talking to her, saying that she doesn't do anything that she loves anymore, she looks away for a second, then turns back, a little defiant look across her face. Well, maybe I don't really want to feel like me anymore. I stare over at her and shake my head, feeling a tiny bit afraid. What the fuck did he do to you? Like what the fuck did Christian do to you to make you like this? Again, tension. Drama? Always. Okay, then we get to chapter 65. Things come to a head between Daisy and Romeo. Now, Romeo wants her to come to dinner with him, with his family, and she's like, no, I'm just gonna wait here. I'm gonna skip out on it. It's not a big deal. I'm just gonna wait here. And Romeo is just like, why wouldn't you come? You know, we're together. You love going to do this, you know. And this is when he finally clues in that they're not doing this because she's back together with him, but it's because she's trying to get over Christian. And he obviously feels very hurt. He says, Daisy, I love you. He tells me unflinchingly, shit, I'm in love with you. And here is what I say. Rome, don't do this. He scoffs. Do what? This. I wave my hand at him vaguely. What are you doing this for? What? He interrupts. Me telling you I love you? Yes, I have. His mouth moves, but sound doesn't come out. He stares at me, painfully confused. What the fuck are you talking about? He shakes his head and then looks at me a bit like I'm a stranger. What are we doing? He stares at me and his eyes look blurry. What are you doing with me, Daze? That's what he says. And it's so freaking sad. Like, I don't like Romeo, but like, dude, that's so sad. So he leaves and she is drowning in her feelings and she still wants sex to cope with what's going on. So she goes downstairs, she drinks, Declan is there, and she ends up having sex with Declan. They end up having sex together and it ain't good. They know that right after it happens. This ain't good. Yeah, Declan's basically like, we can't tell Julian. She's like, yeah, duh, we can't tell Julian. Messy. Now we get to chapter 66. Thing has exploded in Christian's friend group again. Magnolia has now found out who BJ cheated on her with a million years ago, and it turned out it was Magnolia's best friend. She leaves London to go to New York City with Tom, and she is vowing she'll never come back. And everyone is dealing with a destroyed BJ. Chapter 67, and Julian figures out that Declan and Daisy slept together and basically beats Declan to a pulp, like almost kills him. Puts him in the hospital, but they end up talking it out and talking it through. And really it just ends with Julian being like, yeah, I know I took it too far, but you did too. And I'm just like, okay, sure. Murder and sleeping with a willing woman is the same. You're right. Get to 68. Because of how Julian reacted, now Daisy is concerned for Julian kind of going off the handle. That's when Tiller shows up again and tells Daisy that he thinks that Julian is going off the deep end. He ends up driving Daisy home because Daisy went to visit Declan and talk through what happened. They flirt again, her and Tiller admits that he wants to kiss her. They don't kiss, but he admits to that. She says, I wouldn't sleep with people to avoid the giant Christian-shaped hole in the center of my life. But here I'm presented with another option in front of me, another chance for that searing pain to stop. It's hard to say no. It's hard to say no to, especially hard to say no to someone like Tiller. So yeah, she's got feelings for Tiller, and that's crazy. We get to chapter 70. And chapter 70 is Christmas time, and they all go to church, and it's from Christian's perspective, and he is really hoping that Daisy will be there. He suspects that she'll be there, and sure enough, she's there, and so he slides into the pew beside her, and there's just lots of tension moments in there, and just, I have to read a few of them to you. So he slips in next to her. She stiffens up straight away. Hi, I whisper, as close to her as possible. Hi, she says quickly back, staring straight ahead. Merry Christmas, I whisper again, looking for her eyes. She angles her face, but doesn't look at me. Merry Christmas. And then while the church service is going on, he's like up against her, like brushing against her. This is all I want, to be near her and around her, my arm up against her, all of me up against her. And I'm starting to feel that Christmas magic because she doesn't move her arm away. She just stares straight ahead. And, you know, they get up and they've got to do this thing. And so her hands are on the pew in front of them. So I move my hands, brush my fingers up against hers again. She goes still. I keep them there. So does she. I take her not moving as a tacit invite, and I place my hand on top of hers, and I fucking can't believe it. It's a Christmas miracle. The prayers have been answered. Agnes was right to be hopeful, and then Daisy pulls her hand away. Stop, she whispers savagely. Daisy, I start, trying to not let her hear my voice, and that my heart's shattering into 1,000 fucking pieces. And then she runs out, and they start fighting. That's when he finds out that Daisy and Declan slept together, and he's like, what? This is literally what he says. What are you doing? And the fucking worst thing happens. Her perfect mouth starts to shake, and she yells. It's this weird panic squeal, like a dam burst in her or something. Getting over you, she sort of screams and presses a tear into her face. Which is just so sad. So much tension. Again, like just, Ona pulls Christian away and they leave. And again, it's just devastation. Chapter 71. It is Julian's New Year's Eve party, and Christian and Daisy finally kind of talk. She approaches him to talk. This is literally their conversation. Like, this is it. Like, she approached him to talk, right? Because Julian's like, dude, you need to talk. You got to talk it out with him. So she's like, okay, fine. I'll talk to him. They go to her bedroom. She sits, whatever. I fold my ankles, lay my hands in my lap. You keep trying to talk to me, I tell him in the least emotional voice possible. Why? He lets out a single laugh as he intentionally donks his head on one of the posts of my bed. He peeks over at me. How are you? I frown at him, confused. That's why you keep trying to talk to me? To ask me how I am? He shakes his head. No, I'm fine, I tell him loudly. Really? He asks quietly. No, I yell, exasperated. What do you want? He kneels in front of me. We have so much to talk about. I shake my head. No, I push past him, standing up and away. I have nothing to say to you. Like, that's as far as we get before we're already like, no. Like, I'm not going to do this. He tries to tell her that he loves her. He says, Daisy, you're my best friend. Yeah, same. I shake my head incredulously. And you still let me love you by myself. Days, No, I shriek. And it sounds external. It sounds external of my own body. I don't recognize it. Don't. Please don't. So, like, won't even, like, he finally is able to, like, admit that he loves her, but she doesn't want to hear it. She ends up calling for Miguel and being like, get him out, he's hurting me. Miguel takes him away. Christian, of course, is looking devastated because he's like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, this is like the final nail in the coffin for them. There's no way. Chapter 72, she's just moping and crying about not being with Christian still, and Julian is home, and they just basically spend the day together, and it's just a cute brother-sister moment of him taking care of her. This is what she says about him, about Christian. It's why I love his eyes. It's why I love him. He said he loves me. He loves me. And do you know what? I actually do believe him. I think he does love me. So, like, she knows that he loves her, and yet she just can't. So then we get to chapter 73, and this one is another Julian chapter. They've taken the kids, and Julian is trying to make them feel more comfortable, but Koa is like, no, we need them to be scared, and so has Julian leave, and Koa's just messed up, and it's like, what the heck? Then we get to 74, and Tiller drops by to hang out with Daisy and tells Daisy about Julian kidnapping kids and that he needs her help. And she is, of course, beyond pissed because she's like, there's no way. He would never, ever do this. It's one of her rules, but they have proof. Daisy says, okay, yes, I will help you get these kids away from Julian. So her and Tiller and his partner go and break out the kids, and how she decides to distract the lost boys is by shooting herself in the stomach. So she shoots herself in the stomach, and they're all worrying about her, obviously. I mean, they're also pissed at her because they know that she was working with Tiller. She shoots herself in the stomach. Dramatic. So dramatic. What is that? After that, we're dealing with the aftermath of her shooting herself in the stomach and working with Tiller. Romeo hates her now and is like, I never want to see you again, and just leaves. Then we get Julian, who comes in to talk to her, and this is from Julian's perspective. Of course, she's pissed at him, being like, I never want to see you again, and Julian's like, yeah, I never want to see you again either. He says, those are some big words for a little orphan girl. Her jaw goes tight and she bats away a tear. I don't need you. Her chest is heaving. You don't have anyone else, I remind her, and I hate myself for it. Her eyes pinch. I'd rather have no one than who you are now, she spits. All right, I give her a careless shrug. You got it, Days. She nods, quickly, wipes more tears. I can't believe you, she barely whispers. And at the end of it, he's just like, yeah, good riddance. I don't need you. I don't want you. Don't expect anyone to be around you anymore. You're not going to get it. You wanted a normal life. Well, here's your normal life. You are out, and don't ever talk to me again. And it is rough. It is a rough chapter. And we finally get to the last chapter, chapter 77, and it is from Christian's perspective. And Christian has been trying to see Daisy since he found out that she was shot, but no one would let her see him, or no one would let him see her. And it's not until like a week later that he finds out that Daisy has moved out of the compound. She's in a whole new apartment, and he finds her. He goes to that apartment, and they finally have an actual conversation. And they finally admit to each other and say to each other that they love each other. That he wants to be with her and she wants to be with him. However, she's like, I can't be a part of this mafia world anymore. I can't do it. I'm not going to be a part of it. There's no way for me to be a part of it. I just can't. And he's like, but I can't be normal. I can't do that. I can't run away with you. I can't do these things. And that's when like everything comes crashing down around them. You know, like this idea of, yes, they love each other and they know that they love each other, but they just can't be together because she can't be a part of the world and he can't be a part from it. He doesn't think he can just leave. He basically lets her go. She says, I can't do this twice, him leaving. You know, when you leave, please don't come back. She curls her fingers and wipes away a tear. I can't do this twice. Daisy, I mean it, Christian. I need to be normal now. I don't want to be jumpy when a white van drives past me. I don't want to have to take different routes home every day. I don't want a bodyguard. I want to be able to order the same things at restaurants every time I go. I don't want to sleep with a fucking 45 under my pillow, Daisy. I want to be free of it, Christian, so I have to be done. Please let me be done. He says, okay. I nod, barely. You can be done, baby. Thank you, she whispers, chin wobbling. I kiss the corner of her mouth, walk out her door, and then we don't speak for 10 months. And that's how it ends, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of the first book.
That's it. That is the whole dang plot. That's how it ends, with them not being together. I told you, it's tons of drama. It's so toxic. It's so much will they, won't they? And it's so much just this cyclical thinking and just no one having a conversation. It literally felt like the third act breakup miscommunication trope, but a whole book of it. Like, it just insane. Anyways, with that, I'm exhausted. I need to take a break. If you made it to this point, congratulations. You're probably the only one who did. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please. It really does help me out. I'm glad I can provide a service to the girlies out there who don't actually want to get into the Magnolia Parks universe, but are curious. So, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you all again soon. Bye!